So you hear people every day saying, oh, my husband's a narcissist or my wife's a narcissist. So are you wondering, is your spouse a narcissist? Do you even understand what that means exactly? This is a term that has become so overused in our culture that not everybody understands what it really is talking about. So today I want to give you narcissistic personality disorder for beginners. I'm Victoria McCooey. I'm a transformation coach, a motivational speaker, and the creator of the Reclaim Your Power system. So this is what I do all day, every day. I help people who are married to or in a divorce from a narcissistic spouse. Now, that doesn't mean they're necessarily narcissists. It means that they have narcissistic tendencies. We all have some narcissistic tendencies. We're all on the spectrum. That doesn't mean that we're narcissists. A little dose of narcissism is a healthy thing because it gives us self-esteem. But when we're too far on the spectrum, it can become untenable to the people around us. All right, so we're going to talk about what those tendencies look like when they're far on the spectrum. Doesn't mean that the person is a diagnosable narcissist. It means that the tendencies that they have, the narcissistic traits, are toxic to their spouse or their partner. So first, let's talk about how this even happens. Now, there's not a one-size-fits-all reason for someone becoming a narcissist, but what I've learned in my research is that typically it happens in adolescence when one parent abandons the child and the other parent overcompensates for the parent who abandoned the child. Now, it can not necessarily mean physically abandoned. It could be the parent emotionally abandoned the child. And it doesn't even have to actually be a parent. It can be a parental figure. And the parent who abandoned the child might be both parents. And the one who overcompensated might be someone else who's not a parent. Maybe it's another relative or not a relative at all. So it's a broad way of seeing it. But this is what experts say is usually what triggers this sort of personality disorder. Okay, so it doesn't really matter to us as the victim, on the person on the receiving end of the narcissistic abuse, how that person got there. That's just a little overview. What we care about is what they're doing to us. Like, how can you recognize, like, is that normal behavior? Is that why is he, she doing these things, saying these things, acting this way? So let's talk about what those traits look like. So one trait you might recognize right away is the black and white thinking, the all or nothing. So how this looks in a marriage is that there's one right way of doing something, or there's one right way of thinking. There's no middle ground. It's my way or the highway. No compromise. It's just this linear perspective. People are either good or bad. And once someone, I almost said, turns against the narcissist, it doesn't even have to be that dramatic of a thing. But if you don't just automatically subscribe to whatever craziness the narcissist is telling you, if you hesitate for a second, you're the enemy, right? If you're not with me, you're against me. And they can just cut people out, just, you're dead to me, right? So what that leads to is not a lot of long-term relationships. So you'll see narcissists or people with severe narcissistic tendencies not having a lot of old friendships. They're transient. They keep bringing in new friends. And then when those friends turn against them, not really, but, just don't agree with them or don't want to do things the way they want to do them, they cut them out. Relatives that they've cut out of their life, that's a red flag, right? When someone doesn't have these long-term loving relationships with friends and family. Another trait you might notice is rewriting history. They will rewrite history to suit their own purposes, and then they'll actually believe it. I mean, to the extent that true narcissists I've read can actually pass a polygraph test with a lie because they believe their lies. So maybe they're telling you something didn't happen. So some of the things that they might say are, that never happened. When you tell them something that you witnessed yourself, that never happened. I never said that. You never told me that, right? They are actually denying factual events. So this, of course, is called gaslighting. They're telling you that your reality is wrong. What you know to be real, what you know to be true, is not. Here's another term you might have heard used, word salad. So in the narcissistic abuse world, what we call word salad is when you don't agree on something, right? Instead of with a normal person, with a person who is not disordered, you would have an argument, you'd each make your separate points, you would come to a place where you either agree on some common ground or you agree to disagree or whatever that looks like in a normal world. That doesn't happen with a narcissist or somebody with severe narcissistic tendencies. What it looks like instead is, we call it word salad because they will just pull in things into this argument because there is no discussion. A discussion will 100% turn into an argument because you're not with me, you're against me, remember? They'll start bringing in something that you said 5 years ago or something that happened with another person and them, or things that have nothing to do with the argument at hand, right? So they're just, we call it word salad because they're tossing in whatever they can think of, whatever they can find. And what it does to you when you're on the receiving end of word salad, you're a logical person. You think logically. You assume that whatever the narcissist is putting into the argument is for a reason. You're trying to make the connection, right? They're telling you this story. Well, what about? And they go on, and you're trying to connect the dots. You're trying to think, how does this further their argument? How does this story relate to what they're trying to convince me of? It doesn't. It doesn't. It's really a tactic to wear you down. It's just to keep the argument going and going and going. I mean, in my mind, I used to visualize a whirling dervish, right? Because my ex-narcissist would get more and more agitated and start talking about more and more things that had no connection to what we were trying to come to a conclusion on, or make a decision on. It would just escalate out of control, and just like a tornado spinning, and things are getting caught up in it, right? So what do? You're the sane person. You can't continue arguing with someone who's not being rational or reasonable. Nothing makes sense. So you have to walk away. You have to end it. You have to just, throw your hands up and give up. So then when you do that, the narcissist will say, well, see, you give up. You agree. I win because you're giving up. So frustrating, I know. But can you relate? Have you ever been on the receiving end of a word salad argument? Do me a favor. If you've been in one of these arguments that just spin around out of control with no end in sight, will you type into the comments word salad? I want to see how many people know what we're talking about here. So if you want to dive deeper into what these tactics look like, how to deal with them, when you're on the receiving end of them, how to set boundaries around these things, and ultimately how to leave a toxic marriage relationship like these, then please watch more of my videos that go deeper into all of these issues. And if you'd like to find out how I work with my clients, or if you think I might be the right coach for you, the first step is to book a free call with me. There will be a link in the description below where you can get right on my calendar. You can find a time that works for you and book your free call. So what that looks like is we will talk on the phone one-on-one. I'll ask you about your situation and I will give you my best advice for next steps you might want to take, how to take some precautions, what your scenario might look like. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, I hope that you'll book a free call. So did you find this video helpful? Were you able to get some of the basics of narcissistic personality disorder and how you can recognize it in your own life? I sure hope it was. If you liked this video, will you please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. That is how these videos are going to get in front of the people who really need to see them. So you will be helping other people get this information too. Thanks so much for watching. I've linked some other videos here that I think you might also like, so I hope I see you in the next video.